Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a question that's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
What happens when technology solves all of our problems?
It's a thought experiment that can really make you question everything you think you know about progress and the future of humanity.
Oh, absolutely, you're telling me. The listener sent over some excerpts from Nick Bostrom's Deep Utopia.
Okay.
It's this fictional series of lectures set in a world where technology has basically solved everything.
Wow.
Poverty, disease, you name it.
So, like a true utopia.
Yeah, and got me thinking, if we really did achieve this kind of utopia,
hmm
what would we even do with ourselves?
That's the crux of Bostrom's exploration, isn't it? He doesn't shy away from the potentially unsettling implications of a world where all our basic needs are met.
Right.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the fantasy of a perfect world, right?
Yeah.
But Bostrom's work challenges us to go beyond the surface and grapple with the deeper questions. Like, what happens to the economy in a world where robots can do everything better and cheaper than humans?
He dives deep into this concept of a post-scarcity society.
Oh,
A world where material goods are abundant and easily produced thanks to automation.
like the replicators on Star Trek.
Exactly. Think about it. No more working just to survive.
Oh, so what do we do?
Well, that raises some big questions about work, wealth, and even the very concept of value.
I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true, right? Like, is
Yeah.
everyone just going to be lounging around in their robot-maintained mansions? How does that even work?
Well, Bostrom suggests that a post-scarcity world wouldn't necessarily be a world of universal wealth.
Okay.
He argues that land would likely become the primary scarce resource.
Oh, interesting.
Whoever controls the land and the means of production, in this case, the robots, would hold immense power.
Right.
Kind of a dystopian element. Even with material abundance, there's still the potential for inequality and power imbalances.
So it's not just a free-for-all where everyone gets a robot butler and a lifetime supply of pizza.
Mm.
There are some serious economic and social structures to consider.
Absolutely. And then there's the question of work itself.
Right.
What happens in a post-work society? If robots are doing everything, what do humans do all day?
Yeah, I imagine a lot of people would be pretty thrilled to ditch the 9-to-5 grind.
Think so.
But wouldn't we eventually get bored? I mean, humans seem to have this inherent need to be productive, to contribute in some way.
You've hit on a key point there.
Okay.
A lot of traditional utopian thinking assumes that work in some form is still essential. But Bostrom takes it a step further, envisioning a world where work as we know it is truly obsolete.
Okay.
He even argues that our education system would need a radical overhaul.
Really, what would that look like?
Imagine an education system that's less about churning out productive workers
Right.
and more about cultivating flourishing human beings,
Okay.
individuals who are skilled in the art of living a fulfilling life.
So instead of prepping for standardized tests and job interviews, kids are learning how to have stimulating conversations, appreciate art, and pursue their passions.
Exactly. It's a very different way of thinking about education.
I mean, it's definitely different.
But of course, this kind of radical shift wouldn't happen overnight.
Right.
There would be challenges, especially for those who thrive on structure and routine.
I can already hear people saying, but what about the people who love their jobs? What about those who find purpose in work?
Bostrom acknowledges that some people would undoubtedly struggle with the abundance of free time in a post-work world.
Yeah.
There's this concept called boredom proneness, and some people are just naturally more susceptible to it than others.
Okay.
But he also suggests that some of the boredom we experience today is actually a product of our current system.
Really?
We're stressed, overworked, and often stuck in jobs we don't find fulfilling.
Okay.
So in a utopia where those pressures are lifted, we might discover that we're actually less prone to boredom.
That's a really interesting thought.
It's a thought-provoking perspective.
Yeah, what if we're not inherently bored creatures, but rather products of a system that often forces us into unfulfilling roles?
Exactly. And it raises the question, are there A no Y roles that would still require human involvement even in this highly automated utopia?
So are there ain't no why jobs left for us humans in this robot-run paradise?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting because Bostrom suggests that even in a world where machines can outperform us in almost every way, there might still be certain tasks that require a uniquely human touch.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of tasks are we talking about here? Is it something about our biology, our creativity?
Bostrom explores a few possibilities. One is the idea that some tasks might require sentience.
Okay.
The ability to feel and experience emotions in a way that machines, at least for now, can't replicate.
Uh-huh.
Think about things like writing a deeply moving novel or composing a piece of music that evokes profound emotions.
So even if a robot could technically string words together or arrange musical notes, it wouldn't be able to capture the human experience in the same way.
Exactly. It's like the difference between technically proficient and truly soulful.
Yeah.
There's a depth of understanding and feeling that might be unique to humans, at least for now.
Right, so there's the sentience argument. What else does Bostrom suggest?
Another possibility is that some tasks might require moral status.
Okay.
These are roles where we value human judgment, empathy, and ethical decision-making over the cold calculations of a machine.
So even if a robot could, say, take care of a child's physical needs, we might still prefer a human caregiver who can provide emotional support and make decisions based on compassion and understanding.
Precisely. But here's the catch. Bostrom doesn't rule out the possibility that robots and AI could eventually develop sentience or even moral status.
Really?
It's a bit unsettling, right? Even those seemingly human-exclusive roles might not be safe in the long run.
Whoa, that's kind of mind-blowing. So we're talking about a future where even the very essence of what it means to be human is up for grabs.
It's a possibility that we can't ignore. And this leads us to perhaps the biggest question of all. If machines can potentially handle everything, how do we find meaning and purpose in a world where we don't need to do anything?
Yeah, that's the existential crisis lurking beneath all this utopian talk, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the point of it all if everything is already taken care of? Where do we find that drive, that motivation to keep going?
That's exactly the challenge that Bostrom tackles head-on, and his exploration of potential solutions might surprise you.
Well, now you've got me hooked. Let's dig into those solutions.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some mind-bending possibilities.
All right, then let's dive into the deep end of purpose and meaning. Get ready for a wild ride.
Okay. So we've established that a world where robots rule isn't necessarily all sunshine and roses.
Right.
But if we're not working to survive, how do we even find meaning in a utopia? It feels like a paradox. Having all our problems solved might actually create a whole new set of problems.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? And Bostrom offers some thought-provoking ideas about how we might navigate this potential meaning crisis.
I'm all ears. Give me some of those mind-bending solutions.
Well, one intriguing solution is the idea of creating artificial purpose.
Okay.
It might sound counterintuitive, but bear with me. Think about how we find purpose in games.
Okay.
We impose rules and limitations to create challenges.
Right.
We could apply the same principle to real life.
Wait, so you're saying we'd intentionally make things harder for ourselves just to have something to strive for? It sounds kind of crazy, but I can see the logic.
It might sound a bit like self-sabotage,
Right.
but in a world of effortless abundance, creating artificial challenges could be a way to inject meaning and purpose into our lives.
It's like choosing to play a video game on the hardest difficulty setting, even though you could easily breeze through it on easy mode.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between comfort and challenge.
Okay.
The place where we feel most engaged and alive.
Okay, that's one way to hack purpose in a utopia.
Mm.
What other ideas does Bostrom explore?
He also proposes the concept of gifted purpose.
Okay.
This is purpose that comes from the needs and desires of others.
So instead of deriving purpose from our jobs, we'd find it in our relationships and responsibilities to other people.
Precisely think about a parent who finds immense purpose in caring for their child.
Right.
The child isn't giving the parent a job in the traditional sense. They're providing a purpose simply by existing and needing their care. This kind of purpose is a gift.
It's a beautiful way to think about the interconnectedness of purpose and relationships. Even in a world of abundance, we'd still need each other. That's reassuring in a way.
It is, and Bostrom goes on to suggest that purpose could also arise from what he calls sociocultural entanglement.
Okay.
Even in a technologically advanced society, there might be certain roles or tasks that we simply prefer humans to perform.
Okay.
It's about cultural values, traditions, and a certain appreciation for the human touch.
So even if a robot could theoretically create a beautiful piece of art or perform a complex surgery, we might still value the artistry and skill of a human creator or surgeon.
Exactly. There's something about human imperfection, human creativity, that might hold a special kind of value, even in a perfect world. It's about the story behind the creation, the intention, the emotional connection.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we might not want a world where everything is perfectly efficient and sterile.
Right.
There's beauty in the quirks and imperfections of human expression.
It's about finding a balance between the benefits of technology and the irreplaceable value of human connection and creativity.
Okay, so we've got artificial purpose, gifted purpose, and sociocultural entanglement. Those are some pretty intriguing possibilities. But I have to admit, I'm still wrestling with this whole idea of meaning in a world where our basic needs are met. It's like if we don't have to struggle for survival, does anything really matter?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Bostrom doesn't shy away from the philosophical depths of this existential dilemma. He delves into different theories of meaning, exploring both subjective and objective perspectives.
Okay, break it down for me. Subjective versus objective meaning, what's the difference?
Think of subjective meaning as meaning that is derived from your own personal beliefs, experiences, and values.
Okay.
It's the meaning you create for yourself.
So it's like what makes you feel fulfilled and gives your life a sense of purpose.
Exactly. It's highly individual and can vary widely from person to person. Then there's objective meaning,
Okay.
which is the idea that meaning exists independently of our own beliefs and perceptions.
Okay.
It's meaning that is inherent in the universe, regardless of whether we recognize it or not.
I mean, that's a bit more abstract. Can you give me an example?
Think about the concept of truth.
Okay.
We might debate what is true or false, but the idea of truth itself exists regardless of our opinions. It's a concept that transcends individual perspective.
So objective meaning is like that. It's something that exists outside of our own minds and experiences.
Exactly. It's a concept that philosophers have grappled with for centuries, and Bostrom suggests that even in a utopia, we'd still be searching for this deeper meaning.
So even if we had all the material comforts and technological advancements we could ever dream of, we'd still be asking those big questions about the meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
It seems to be part of the human condition, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're meaning-seeking creatures even when our basic needs are met, and in a way, that's kind of beautiful.
It means that there's always more to discover, more to learn, more to experience. We wouldn't just become complacent and stagnant in a utopia.
Precisely. And Bostrom explores several ideas about where we might find this deeper meaning.
Okay.
One possibility is that we'll find purpose in solving problems faced by future generations, even if those problems seem distant or abstract to us now.
So instead of focusing on our own immediate needs, we'd be working towards a better future for humanity as a whole.
Exactly. It's about expanding our circle of concern beyond our own lifetimes and considering the long-term well-being of our species.
It's a grand and inspiring vision.
It is, but I can also imagine some people struggling with this idea. It's like if we're living in a utopia, why should we worry about problems that might not even exist yet?
That's a valid point. And Bostrom acknowledges that finding meaning in future-oriented goals might not resonate with everyone.
Right.
He also suggests that we might find meaning in preparing for interactions with alien civilizations, should they ever exist.
Oh, okay. Now that's just cool. It's like instead of just focusing on ourselves, we'd be preparing to join a larger galactic community.
It's a mind-blowing possibility, isn't it? And it raises all sorts of questions about what it means to be human in a universe teeming with other intelligent life forms.
It definitely pushes the boundaries of our imagination. What other far-out possibilities does Bostrom explore? He also suggests that managing the complexity of a highly advanced civilization could itself be a source of meaning and purpose.
Okay.
It's like the more complex our technology and our society become, the more we'll need individuals who can think critically, solve problems, and guide us towards a better future.
So it's not just about creating cool gadgets and robots. It's about using those advancements wisely and ethically to create a truly flourishing society.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that technology is a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we use it.
Okay, I'm starting to see how even in a utopia, there would be plenty of challenges and opportunities for growth. It wouldn't just be a static paradise.
It would be a dynamic and ever-evolving landscape requiring constant adaptation and innovation.
Wow.
But amidst all this talk of grand challenges and future-oriented goals, Bostrom also acknowledges the potential for a meaning crisis.
A meaning crisis. What's that all about?
It's the feeling that your life lacks meaning or purpose, even when you have all your basic needs met, and Bostrom suggests that this feeling might be particularly common in a utopian world where we're not constantly driven by survival needs or external pressures.
So it's like if we're not struggling to survive, we might start to question the point of it all.
Exactly. It's a classic existential dilemma, and it suggests that even in a utopia, we'll need to find ways to cultivate meaning and purpose from within.
It's like that old saying, man does not live by bread alone. We need something more than just material comfort to truly thrive.
And that something more might come from exploring our own inner landscapes, cultivating our creativity, and finding meaning in our connections with others.
I'm really struck by this idea that a utopia wouldn't necessarily be about achieving some perfect end state,
Right.
but rather about embracing the ongoing journey of growth and discovery Even with robots doing all the work, there's still so much potential for human flourishing.
That's a beautiful insight, and it speaks to the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit.
Yeah.
We're constantly evolving, searching for meaning, and creating new possibilities, and that journey might be the most meaningful aspect of all.
All right, so we've explored some pretty mind-bending possibilities for finding purpose in a utopia.
We have.
But before we get too carried away with these grand visions, I want to bring things back down to earth a bit. Let's talk about the practical implications of a world where robots are doing most of the work. How does the economy even function in a post-work society?
That's a crucial question because a post-scarcity world wouldn't magically eliminate the need for systems of resource allocation and distribution.
So we're not just talking about a free-for-all where everyone gets a universal basic income and can just chill out all day.
It's not quite that simple. Bostrom explores various economic models that could potentially work in a post-work world.
Okay.
One possibility is a resource-based economy where goods and services are distributed based on need rather than on traditional market forces.
So instead of earning money to buy things, we'd simply request what we need and the robots would produce and deliver it. It sounds incredibly efficient.
It does, but there are challenges to consider.
Okay.
For example, how do we ensure that resources are allocated fairly and sustainably? How do we prevent waste and overconsumption?
Yeah, those are some big questions. And how do we even decide what constitutes a need versus a want in a world where material abundance is the norm?
Those are exactly the kinds of ethical and philosophical dilemmas that a post-scarcity society would have to grapple with, would require a fundamental shift in our values and our relationship with material goods.
It's like we'd have to redefine what it means to be wealthy and successful. It wouldn't just be about accumulating stuff anymore.
Exactly. It would be about cultivating experiences, relationships, and contributions that enhance our well-being and the well-being of others.
Okay, so there's some serious economic and social structures to consider, but what about the individual level? How would people spend their time in a world without work? Would we all become philosophers and artists?
Well, Bostrom suggests that a post-work world wouldn't necessarily lead to a homogeneous society where everyone pursues the same interests.
Oh.
In fact, he argues that the abundance of free time could lead to a flourishing of diverse passions and pursuits.
So instead of everyone being forced into the same mold, we'd have the freedom to explore our own unique talents and interests.
Exactly. Imagine a world where people are free to dedicate themselves to their hobbies, their passions, their intellectual pursuits. It's a world where creativity and innovation could truly flourish.
It's a tantalizing vision.
Yeah.
But I can also imagine some people struggling with this newfound freedom.
Uh-huh.
What about those who thrive on structure and routine? Wouldn't they feel lost and directionless?
Bostrom acknowledges that some people might find the transition to a post-work world challenging.
Right.
He suggests that we might need to develop new social structures and support systems to help people navigate this shift.
So instead of traditional workplaces, we might have community centers, learning hubs, and collaborative spaces where people can connect, learn, and find purpose in shared activities.
Exactly. It's about creating a society that supports individual growth and fulfillment, even in the absence of traditional work structures.
This whole conversation is really making me question everything I thought I knew about work leisure and the meaning of life.
That's the power of Bostrom's work, isn't it? He challenges us to think critically and creatively about the future and to imagine possibilities that might seem radical or even unsettling at first glance.
It's definitely a mind-expanding journey, but I have to admit I'm still a bit apprehensive about this idea of a world without work.
I understand.
It's like I can see the potential benefits, but I also worry about the potential pitfalls.
It's understandable to feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. After all, we're talking about a profound shift in the very fabric of human society.
Exactly. And I think it's important to acknowledge those anxieties and to have open and honest conversations about the potential challenges of a post-work world.
I couldn't agree more. It's through dialogue, debate, and critical reflection that we can shape a future that is both technologically advanced and ethically sound.
Well said. So we've explored some of the potential ways we might find purpose and meaning in a utopia.
We have.
But I think there's one more big question lurking beneath the surface. If we have the power to reshape our minds and experiences through technology, can we engineer meaning itself? Or will we face a meaning crisis on a grand scale?
That's the ultimate challenge, isn't it? And it's one that Bostrom explores with remarkable depth and nuance.
Okay, I'm ready for the grand finale. Let's dive into the deep end of engineered meaning and the potential for a utopia that is both fulfilling and truly human.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it? And Bostrom doesn't offer any easy answers, but he does provide a framework for thinking about the relationship between technology meaning and the future of human experience.
Well, I'm ready to have my mind blown. Give me the Bostrom lowdown on engineered meaning.
He starts by reminding us that while technological advancements can solve a lot of practical problems, they don't automatically solve the problem of meaning.
Okay.
In fact, they might actually exacerbate it.
So even if we have robots doing all the work and we eradicated disease and hunger, we might still end up feeling empty and unfulfilled. Like, what's the point of all this progress if it doesn't lead to a more meaningful existence?
It's a valid concern, and Bostrom argues that a utopia with all our material needs met could actually make it harder to find meaning and purpose.
That's counterintuitive. How could having more actually lead to feeling less?
Well, think about it. In our current world, meaning is often derived from struggle, from overcoming obstacles, from striving for something beyond our immediate grasp.
Right.
But in a utopia where everything is readily available, those sources of meaning might disappear.
So it's like, if we don't have to work for anything, we might lose that sense of accomplishment, that feeling of having earned our place in the world.
Exactly. And there's another potential pitfall.
Okay.
Bostrom suggests that a utopia filled with constant pleasure and novelty could actually lead to a kind of existential boredom.
Wait, so you're saying we could have all the fun and excitement we could ever want and still end up feeling bored? How is that even possible?
It's the paradox of hedonism. When pleasure becomes the ultimate goal, it can actually lose its value.
It's like eating your favorite dessert every day. Eventually, it just wouldn't be as special anymore.
That's a great analogy, and Bostrom argues that the same principle applies to meaning. If we're constantly bombarded with novel experiences and easy gratification, we might lose the capacity to appreciate the subtler, deeper forms of meaning that come from challenge, growth, and connection.
So we're talking about a potential future where people are chasing after the next thrill, the next dopamine hit, but never truly feeling satisfied or fulfilled.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? And it highlights the importance of cultivating meaning from within rather than relying on external sources of pleasure or stimulation.
Okay, so simply engineering a world of abundance and pleasure isn't enough. We need to go deeper, but how do we actually cultivate meaning in a way that's sustainable and authentic?
That's the million-dollar question, and Bostrom explores a range of possibilities, from embracing ancient wisdom traditions to exploring cutting-edge technologies like virtual reality and mind uploading.
Mind uploading. That's getting into some serious sci-fi territory. What does that even entail?
It's the hypothetical idea of transferring your consciousness into a digital substrate,
Yeah.
essentially creating a digital copy of your mind.
So instead of living in a physical body, we'd exist as pure information. It's like something out of the Matrix.
It is, and Bostrom raises some fascinating questions about the potential for mind uploading to enhance meaning and well-being. For example, imagine a world where you could experience multiple lifetimes, explore countless virtual realities, and connect with other minds in ways that are currently unimaginable.
It's like taking the idea of personal growth and expanding it to an exponential level. But I also wonder, would it still be you experiencing all these things, or would it be some kind of digital replica? It gets into some pretty deep philosophical waters.
It does, and that's part of what makes Bostrom's work so compelling. He's not afraid to grapple with the big questions, even if they don't have easy answers.
Okay, so we've got mind uploading on one end of the spectrum and ancient wisdom traditions on the other. Is there a middle ground here? Are there any approaches to cultivating meaning that are more grounded in our current reality?
Absolutely, and I think this is where things get really practical. Bostrom emphasizes the importance of fostering a sense of purpose through meaningful activities, relationships, and contributions to something larger than ourselves.
So even in a world of abundance, we still need to find ways to engage with the world, connect with others, and make a difference.
Precisely, it's about recognizing that meaning isn't something that's simply given to us. It's something we actively cultivate through our choices and actions.
It's like that quote from Viktor Frankl. Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives. Even if our basic needs are met, we still have this innate drive to find meaning and purpose.
Exactly, and that drive might be even more important in a utopia where we're not constantly distracted by survival needs.
Okay, so we need to be intentional about cultivating meaning. But what does that look like in practice? Can you give me some concrete examples?
Absolutely. One way to cultivate meaning is through engaging in activities that align with your values and passions.
So if you're passionate about art, you might dedicate your time to creating or appreciating art. If you're passionate about helping others, you might volunteer your time or donate to causes you believe in.
Exactly. It's about finding activities that give you a sense of flow that make you feel alive and engaged. And it doesn't have to be something grand or world-changing. It could be something as simple as gardening, playing music, or spending time with loved ones.
I love that it's about finding joy and purpose in the everyday moments.
Another important aspect of cultivating meaning is nurturing strong and meaningful relationships. Human connection is essential for our well-being, and it can provide a deep sense of purpose.
It's like that African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We need each other to truly thrive.
And in a utopia where people have more free time, there would be more opportunities to cultivate those deep and meaningful
So
connections.
instead of being isolated in our individual pursuits, we'd be spending more time with friends, family, and community.
Exactly. It's about creating a society that values connection, collaboration, and mutual support.
And finally, Bostrom suggests that finding meaning often involves contributing to something larger than ourselves.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something bigger, whether it's our community, our planet, or even the cosmos as a whole.
So it could be about working on projects that benefit future generations, protecting the environment, or even exploring the vast unknown of space.
Exactly. It's about finding something that transcends our individual ego and connects us to a larger purpose.
This whole conversation has been incredibly thought-provoking. I'm starting to see that utopia isn't just about creating a world of material abundance and technological marvels. It's about creating a world where people have the time, resources, and support to cultivate meaning and purpose in their lives.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And ultimately, I think that's the key to creating a utopia that's truly worth living in a utopia that's not just about surviving, but about thriving.
Well, listener, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the economic and social implications of a post-scarcity world, the potential challenges of a life without work, and the different ways we might find purpose and meaning in a utopia.
It's been quite a journey, and I hope it's left you with some new perspectives and questions to ponder.
We started with the idea of a solved world and ended up exploring the very essence of what it means to be human. We talked about artificial purpose, gifted purpose, sociocultural entanglement, and even mind uploading.
We did.
We discussed the importance of cultivating meaning from within, nurturing our relationships, and contributing to something larger than ourselves.
We sure did.
And ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway is that a utopia isn't just something that happens to us. It's something we actively create through our choices, our actions, and our commitment to living meaningful and fulfilling lives.
That's a powerful message to leave our listeners with. A utopia is not a destination, it's a direction.
Beautifully said. And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Nick Bostrom's Deep Utopia.
Yeah.
We hope it sparked your imagination and inspired you to think critically and creatively about the future we're building together.
Remember, the future is not predetermined. It's a canvas waiting for us to paint our visions and aspirations onto it. Let's strive to create a utopia that is not just technologically advanced, but also deeply meaningful and truly human.
We've only scratched the surface of Bostrom's work, so if you're hungry for more mind-bending insights, we highly encourage you to check out his book. And in the meantime, keep asking those big questions, keep exploring, and keep striving to create a world that is both fulfilling and truly worth living in.
Thanks for listening.